It's nice to get a year under your belt. You feel a lot more comfortable. Those things that you can't see without it being your ship. It's nice to be able to get your schedule in place. It's nice to get some of the things you like to do in place. Some of the guys start to feel a little more comfortable in year two. Not that there's big changes, but those little things, those subtle things that change between head coaches are really important. I'm super excited for year two. I think we have a great group of guys here. We've got a really good mix of seniors all the way down to freshmen up on varsity. So I think this is a great group to have and be part of for year two. Yeah, it's always a help when you have guys who are 4-year starters, Owen and Zach, having a lot of experience. Even, some of our juniors, David's been up here with us since midway through his freshman year. Camden McTaggart's been up here midway through his freshman year. And even a guy like Jackson Bender who came in strong last year on the mound, that experience of knowing what a varsity game feels like, who can also relay that information down to our freshmen who are playing a lot of innings of what that feels like. You go through the youth program and it's, play games on the weekends, go through a different thing. And then you get to varsity and it's, there's a pit in your stomach, a nervousness, and some guys don't know how to handle it. And having that experience is really going to benefit us, I think. West Salem is a great program, a phenomenal program. So to go there and compete was really important. Whether we won or lost, it wasn't necessarily about that, but it was more about being competitive, finding a way to fight through a 7-inning baseball game, because that's something that we've really talked about as a program, is learning how to compete against some of these programs that have a little bit of that hype around them, and West Salem definitely fits that category. Jamie does a great job down there, and for us to go in and get a win is, that means a lot. Starting 1-0 is extremely important, not only for guys' confidence, but building towards the right direction. Obviously today we came out, we struggled a little bit with some of our energy, but it's building blocks. It's figuring out what you need to work on. We've been outside, I think, 3 total practices out of 12 or 10 or however many it is, and it's figuring out what do we need to clean up going into conference play, what do we need to iron out, we had a couple of question marks on who was going to start where, and then it becomes figuring out who's swinging a hot bat, who's doing things well, and again, how do we get guys who are struggling a little more experience, a little more time, iron those things out, and the only way you can do that is get out and play. The biggest positive for us has been throwing strikes. I think we've thrown a lot of strikes. We've been able to avoid the free pass. And that's such a key in high school baseball is you start giving away free bases. It doesn't matter when. They always come back to hurt you. I think that's been a really big positive. The other thing is putting the ball in play. Making that pitcher work and making that defense make a play rather than going down, whether it's looking or swinging. That's such an easy thing to defend. We've been in play a ton even today, and we've scored 6 runs each game. You can't be mad about that offensively. I think cleaning up some of the communication issues. We had a play today where I think if we had been outside a few more times, we make that play. A couple of times, even a play we did make, we didn't communicate well on. Some things we could have communicated on steals, on pickoffs, on base running. Those are things that you can't really simulate in a gym. You've got to be outside. You've got to give your guys time. You can only throw a fly ball so high in a gym space, and infielders and outfielders both need that work, and they both need to grow together to be able to execute those plays. Biggest takeaway is, again, continuing to put our guys in situations to succeed. We've got to make sure that we're able to drive the fastball. We did a really good we had a big focus point in our early practices about driving the fastball, being on time for the fastball, making that pitcher execute off-speed pitches, which can be a struggle for some high school guys. Heading into conference play, we've got to make sure we're ready for the fastball. Holman has 2 guys who can really throw it. Aquinas has 2 guys who can really throw it. Every conference central has a guy who can really reach back for it. Everywhere's got that guy who can really sling the ball, and you got to be able to match that offensively. You can't depend on your pitcher to go out and match a 1 or a 0-0 ball game every time. You got to score runs to win games.